Welcome back. We're here to talk about spirituality, diversity of that spirituality. And we've got a few friends here for you to listen to get their stories and understandings of it. But to understand spirituality, we have to come away from what we call normal orthodox religion. We have to come away from spiritualism, metaphysical spiritualism, to truly find what people are seeking today, the meaning of life.
I had the the good fortune to have a mother who is also interested in the spirit world. And at the age of 10, 10 and a half, she had a friend who went to the um, Shrine of the Master Church in Tampa, and that was ministered by Dorothy and Russell Flexer. They're both ministers. So she went to a class that was on Monday nights, and this was around December, around Christmas. And I waited up for her to get home, and we lived 30 miles out from the church where the class was held. So, I was very interested in knowing. Tell me about it. What happened? And she said she met her spirit doctor. His name was Dr. Thornburg. I can remember his name. Um, and they worked on exercises of mediumship, and she said there was a question and answer period that you could ask a question of Dr. Davis, who was Reverend Dorothy's spirit doctor. And as soon as I heard about it, I said, I want to go. I was 10 and a half. And she said, well, it's invitation only. I'll have to tell her you're interested. So she did. And my birthday was in March, the end of March. And during that month, they gave me the word that I had been accepted to sit in the classes. So it was, I was by far the youngest person in the class. I mean, probably the next oldest was probably in 40s or 50s. But I just thought that you know, the, and I didn't see dead people, I didn't have mysterious dreams, about life. I just wanted to know how things worked. And so that's how I pursued it. I had no I had no interest at all in becoming a minister. I just wanted to be able to learn the bigger picture, even at that young age. Every week was a little bit different. I mean, it was basically the same as far as Dr. Davis would give us a exercise that we would have for the evening, and we would work with our spirit doctor when it was our turn, and he or she would come in and tell us how well we did. Say for instance, if the topic was occupations, then we were to tune in to our spirit team, and they would give us the impression of an occupation that somebody in the room had, and then we were asked to try to place who did that person go to, and then the person would say yes, I can take it, or no, I can't. And then if they couldn't take it, we were to say, can anybody else take this? And then once we were done, my doctor would come in and say, yes, it does go to Ruby, or it does go to Frank, or whoever. And so we would learn that way. Something that appealed to me, even at that age, I had a belief that things needed to make sense. My mother's family were strongly Orthodox Christian. I won't give the name of their beliefs, but they were strongly Orthodox. And I had gone to church with them a couple of times, and it didn't make sense to me, what we were being asked to believe. But this did. They, Red Wing was Reverend Dorothy's spirit guide, one of her guides, her doorkeeper, and she was just really fun. So you never knew what she was going to say. The first night I was there, she said, "Have you ever talked to dead people before?" you know, no, I haven't. This is very interesting, and so I was never intimidated by it. Um, I never felt that I was out of place or overwhelmed. I was there to learn, and the people were very kind and very, very open to me being there. So, and my mom, we would ride together into the class, and so on the way home, she would talk about what she had experienced, what I experienced, and it was continual learning. So that's that's how it all started. And again, she never tried to talk me into anything. It was I was the driver there. I was the one saying, "I want to learn about this." And like I said, we had the classes weren't set up to be question and answer periods, but I always had a question, and so Dr. Davis would accommodate me and answer my question, and then we'd go on to something else. But the other thing I felt that I haven't really articulated, uh, but I felt a level of high professionalism and integrity, and that these individuals were very evolved people. You know, I wouldn't say beings; they were people, but they were very evolved. They knew what they were doing, highly trained, and where in the world are you going to get access to that type of knowledge? Not many places. I would say learning the processes of how things worked. You know, for instance, we learned that there was no heaven and hell or states of mind. They weren't places that you go. I never believed that there were places that you would go if you were good or bad. That didn't make sense. Um, so everything that came up, and I'm sure they could read my mind, and they knew how to respond, to a 11-year-old's, level. Um, but um, it just kept, it just kept adding to the experience. So I never got bored. I stayed in those classes for 33 years, and you know, I wanted to learn more, and I still do today. When I hear of new experiences, I want to learn about them. I want to know about them. One thing I have learned, after 60 years of studying spirit, life in the world, in the world of spirit and all of this, I thought I knew a lot, but I've come to the realization I didn't. I don't. I'm still learning, and there's still more to learn. And, I'm quite interested in spiritual laws because those are laws that are in place. Just like we have physical laws that are in place, like the law of gravity. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're bound by the law of gravity. Well, the same thing with the spiritual laws, whether you're aware of them or not. The law of attraction, the law of free will, the law of love. Um, and so, the more I could learn, the better I could live my life, you know. And I had no grand designs. I had no, high aspirations of being or doing things that were different. I just wanted to learn for me, for my benefit. And then I could also, as I got older, I could explain to other people who were relatively new in the classes. There are a few good mediums in the world. There are a few good teachers. And so because of my background, I could, I've learned a lot about mediumship and I've learned a lot about teaching and all of that. So um, I know that I've encountered tremendous number of people that want to learn. They just like me, they wanted to put things together and see what the big picture was. So many of them didn't have the opportunity to go out and find and experience the teachers. My personal rule is there were two rules I've had in connecting with teachers. One is that they had to have a connection to the spirit world, spirit people in the spirit world. The second was they were interested in helping people. I never felt that there was anything wrong with people earning a living. That was what they were doing. They were earning a living. But I didn't want the earning the living to be the priority that they had. I wanted, what can they teach the people? It's the old saying, if you give a person a fish, you fed them for the day. If you teach them to fish, you fed them for life. Well, you look at one bit of knowledge could save people just many, many years of making mistakes and having to, you know, live by the consequences of their mistakes. So why not have them experience what the truth is? It's really seeking out the truth. And surprisingly, and I've had it confirmed with many spiritual teachers, that the authenticity of teachers, as far as being honest and true, is pretty low. I don't care about legacy because, I'm a fellow traveler with everybody else. And I've always taken a humble approach to things. I've never felt that I was different. It's just that I was probably a couple chapters ahead of most people. So to me, a legacy would be that I want to be thought of in a favorable way, and I could care less about that. You know, I know that my sense of honesty and integrity is what draws people to support the teachers and mediums that we bring in here. And I will always say at the end of a workshop or a class or some experience, I say, we couldn't do this without you. And they're there because they trust me. So I don't I don't bring somebody in unless I've experienced their work. And I've flown all over the world experiencing some of these people before, and that's how I met Phil. Met him in Holland, and he had the right attitude, he had the right interest, um, and I think part of the being sensitive to energy, and I'm one of those individuals that has a strong intuitive side and a strong analytical side. So things have to make sense. And again, if money is their total motivation, I'm not interested in working with them. Like I said, I have no problems with them earning a fair living. That's part of the deal. But I want them to be able to help the people that come. Because a lot of people they're taking their personal time, they're taking their resources and spending them, accordingly, and it's important to them. So that's been my, again, legacy has no, I have no concept of that. Doesn't matter to me.
For me, spirituality means being true to yourself, being true to who you are, and to the unique expression of the universal mind that you are. There's one mind, there's one intelligence, and that is an expression of the universal whole, of which each person is an individual expression of the whole. And so I'd say it's about being true to yourself. Well, ever since I was a kid, I'd have ghostly experiences and see people in my bedroom at night. I would be, um, experiencing things like that and having a pull to the other world through cinema, through literature, through things like this. So I was always curious about uh, mysticism, about otherworldly things. So it was always there. And then as time went on, I ran into my friend and teacher, Tom Newman, and we met actually in a bookstore, and we got to talking, and he was telling me some about what he was doing and about spiritualism and about various aspects of that. And I thought, this is cool. This guy's talking about some cool things, and for me, that was feeding my mind as far as the artistic expressions that I'm interested in. And it was a lot of food for thought. And at the end of our conversation, he had said, "Let me give you my card," and said, "I don't need your card." I had been going with a lady, and she had said that there's a man moving to Santa Fe who communicates with spirit people, and this might be a cool thing that we could do for a date. And I thought, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do that. And at the end of our conversation, he gave me his card, and I said, "I don't need your card." I saw his card. I gave it back to him. I said, "I already have your card." And it was one of those kind of unique experiences where, uh, up to that time, Tom had only had one reading in Santa Fe, and so the recipient of that reading, his sitter, gave that card to his sitter. She in turn gave it to her friend, who then in turn gave it to me. And so that would be the experience that got me turning more and more to spirituality and the concepts thereof, mental mediumship, readings with a medium, aspects of physical mediumship, deep trance mediumship, things along this line. And over time, as my friendship developed with Tom and started to take classes and learn more for myself and read literature, just kind of became those learning experiences for me. And I can find that when I'm making artwork, that when I reach that point when there's no time except for what is immediately in front of me, you lose track of time. You go into a zone, you go into that place, and ideas flow freely when you're being, true to yourself. So yeah, there's definitely a connection with that. There's possibilities of development along the lines of, precipitated artwork. Um, so yeah, they're definitely interrelated with each other. There's a going. I call it, like artists will call it. You go into a zone, and you lose track of time. You lose track of space. There's definitely an energy and a feeling that is similar. The more that I sit for spirit, the more that I sit in the energy, the more that I feel that when I'm in spirit, when I'm drawing, and in itself it becomes a way of a meditation. And I've heard other artists talk about that, and that would be that element of going into a zone, which would be the way that they. I've heard other artists talk about that too. And when you're making artwork, you pull from, or at least I do, from my experiences in my dreams when I see in images. Um, Other artists call, different sources of inspiration like that they pull from. And, I believe that those are also avenues of where you connect with spirit people and with yourself, really. Spirituality and developing your spirituality, it's about being true to yourself. You can't give love to somebody else if you don't first love yourself. You can't be honest with somebody else if you can't first be honest with yourself. And so, in pursuing your artwork, there are philosophies with people making artwork for the market. And in that, you're making artwork for somebody else. I believe that if you make something and it comes from your heart, that will connect with somebody else. If you value it, if you love it, regardless of what it is, it will connect with somebody else at that level. And that artist will pass on their soul energy, their inspiration onto somebody else. And it really, you know, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter what you make. If, um, if it means something to you, then yeah, it will connect with somebody else in that way too. So the important thing is making art that means something to you. And that could be doing anything, not specifically making art, but being true to yourself. And that's, I feel, part of the discovery of self through mediumship, the spirit world development with that, and through art making. Now, for me, it's always been a way that I think and that I see. And as I mentioned earlier, going into a dream state or a hyper imagination may be a way to describe it, is just very active in thinking in visual terms, being able to capture those little moments and those thoughts. they're so fun to share. And there's also in the history of art and art education, there's the philosophy of the formulaic construction of art, the making of art, or the making of art for a market, which um, can be described by some people like Vasily Kandinsky, who would say, yeah, this art has all the ear tags of an art piece. It's in a frame. It has colors. It depicts a picture, but there isn't that spark of life to it. And then Vasily Kandinsky would say, what's the experience with art? When somebody sees art, then you're talking about the spirituality of art, the experiential aspect of art. And so that's an interesting debate for me. And it's also kind of a slippery slope, too, because if you are making something for an art market, it will connect with somebody who's in that art market. But I still feel that if the artist is making something that they're not making it for themselves, I feel there's something missing for that artist. And for me in my journey, that's part of the, um, I won't say the problem of it, but the growing experience of it is sort of, in a way, like a dog chasing its own tail. You think one day I'm going to make something for the art market because it's going to make some money. And sure, that works, but then there's also what feeds your soul and what makes you truly happy and that true inspiration and honoring that aspect of self. And I feel that's such a personal question that only an artist could truly answer for themselves, or a musician could answer for themselves, or a medium could answer for themselves. So it's about finding that truth within yourself, finding your true expression of that universal mind, that one energy of the world that you are a individual reflection of and expression of. My artwork is a lot of humor based, and oftentimes it doesn't connect with a lot of people, but that's the part that's truly me and what brings me the most joy. And so it's being able to block out, you know, what other people say might be best for you and going with what you know is best for you and what you're making. You know when you're honest with yourself, and you know when you're not honest with yourself. Well, it's me. You know, it's like I said, being true to yourself. The spirituality comes through your artwork, like it does in your mediumship, as who you are in its own individual way. And that, for me, is the expression of spirituality. You know, and it's helping people. Like for me, my artwork is staying in touch with the inner child. Is that's the most important part. Is that being true to yourself? But it's like um, the inner child in my art and spirituality through my art comes through with being playful and being true to yourself. And regardless of what it doesn't matter what it is, what comes out. You know, it's just got to be naturally what it is and be true to you, regardless of what the vision is. It doesn't matter as long as it's being true to you, as long as you're being true to yourself.
Spirituality is about accepting that many different people walking this earth will have their own views, their own beliefs, their own faiths. They'll have their own understanding about what inspires them, what is their truth, what is important to them. When we have our own spirituality and our own truth, it gives us something to walk through. It gives us something to follow. It allows us to walk our own path and to trust what is happening. When I notice, and you'll notice it too, when somebody has a spiritual quality about themselves and they believe in that spiritual truth, something magical happens. There's a connection of souls. There's a connection of understanding. There's an empathy. There's an understanding. Spiritual truth doesn't mean one truth. It means something much greater than that. And just because we don't understand somebody else's truth doesn't mean that truth isn't valid. It might mean we're not ready for that truth yet. I think for me, the biggest understanding is to willingly walk through life, embracing everything I hear, embracing everything I experience. And it might not be for me in that moment, but at some point in my life, I have to trust it will resonate and Spirit will bring back a memory of something said long ago. For me, that is the joy of being able to experience something spiritual in its nature, in its truth, and in its essence. And I'm ever so grateful for that.